Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show for you guys. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, as y'all know, Kawhi Leonard has been all in the news, right? I'm sure all of you are fully aware now that Kawhi Leonard, in fact, has a torn meniscus. But he initially made news when we found out that he was going to be unavailable for the Clippers Game 3 versus the Phoenix Suns. That was a news that surprised and, dare I say, jarred a lot of us. Then we found out he was going to be missing Game 4 as well. Now, initially, when this news broke, Stephen A. Smith went on ESPN First Take, and basically what he said was Kawhi Leonard is one of the top 3 worst superstars in sports history. That was his original opinion. He said he was absolutely terrible. After that, he then said that he believes Kawhi Leonard should retire. So what happened? Yesterday on ESPN First Take, they brought in JJ Redick to go alongside Stephen A. Smith and Chris Mad Dog Russo. And as y'all know, whenever JJ Redick is there with Mad Dog, there's always some type of contention between these two gentlemen. They handle it well, but you can see that Mad Dog really gets on JJ Redick's nerves. So yesterday, they started off their show talking about this very thing, which is Kawhi Leonard. So what happened was initially, Stephen A. Smith asked them to give him an ISO where it was just him talking to the camera. And he reiterated his position in terms of he feels that the Clippers should demand, and Steve Ballmer them should demand, that Kawhi Leonard retire. And while that was being said, JJ Redick was just patiently, you could see he was simmering, but he was waiting for Stephen A. Smith to finish his point. And when he got a chance to speak, he absolutely went at Stephen A. Smith for saying that Kawhi Leonard is one of the worst superstars in NBA history. So what we want to do is we want to play exactly this exchange. It's a bit lengthy, but we want to play the most important parts, and then we're going to come back and react to this thing. So take a listen to what these gentlemen had to say here.
So, put the camera on me right now, please. Steve Ballmer and the Los Angeles Clippers should force Kawhi Leonard to retire. I'm done. He needs to go home. Okay? It's over. I'm not in any way questioning the legitimacy of Kawhi Leonard's injury. A matter of fact, I'm fully embracing it. I've heard very, very alarming stories about his health. You see people talking about he's walking around all limping all the time. He is not a healthy individual. I'm not questioning his heart. I'm not questioning his courage. I'm not questioning any of that. The man's a 2-time champion. He's a 2-time MVP. I said it the other day, and I said it, and I regretted it only because we heard about some stuff that happened with his family, and I didn't know that was in the news and stuff like that. I don't wish that enough. God bless you and your family, and I hope everything ends up well for everybody. But he is the absolute worst superstar you could possibly have on your team. He's barely ever there. And on top of it all, he does nothing to market or promote your franchise. Absolutely, positively nothing. He got $42 million this year. Him and Paul George are making identical dollars to the penny. $42 million in change this year, $45 million in change next year, and then a player option at $48 million. He couldn't go last year at all. Okay? Couldn't go this year when it counted. In the past, he couldn't go when it counted. Arrived in Toronto telling them, don't look for me for more than 65 games. Didn't even give him 60 games. Hasn't given you at least 60 games in the season in at least the last 4 years, okay? And then the playoffs come, and this is the difference between him or various other people. We see them get hurt. We'll watch Kawhi drop 38 one game like he did in Game 1 against Phoenix, 31 in Game 2, walk off the court, and then the next thing you know, Ty Lue gets a net. He ain't available today. And oh, by the way, he ain't available next week. And he ain't available the next game. You don't know why, but you hear and you hear stories. Yes, they have a medical staff. You hear about he got his own medical team. But damn it, they should be fired. He's never healthy when it counts. And again, if you're not marketing and promoting the sport, if all you're doing is saying, I'm gonna grab my lunch pail and play. But 50% of the time, you ain't grabbing your lunch pail to play.
I mean this in the nicest way possible to both of you, but listening to each of you right now, it's very obvious that you've played zero high-level basketball, and you do not understand the requirements of doing that. And I do mean that in a nice way.
Yeah. I'll respond to this.
No, hold on. You bring up Zion.
Yes.
I talked about this when we talked about Zion. You brought up Zion. Trying to play coming off a hamstring injury, a serious hamstring injury. I've had to deal with it multiple times in my career. I popped it grade 3 when I was in college. There's a weeks long mental hurdle to come back and play. To be able to just do a simple closeout. A sprained ankle is very different than a sprained knee. A sprained knee for someone who has torn a quad tendon and who has torn their ACL is very different than someone playing on a hobbled ankle in the 1970s. It's a terrible analogy. I'm sorry. It's a terrible analogy. I want to tell a quick story real quick. Because I think you bring up the medical staff, all this stuff. When I played for Philly, when we would have off days, everybody knows I lived in Brooklyn when I played for Philly. I commuted back and forth for games and practices. But if we had an off day, I'd go up to Midtown to the NBPA, and I'd work out there with my New York trainer. A basketball guy would meet me. A weight guy would meet me. We'd work on my body, whatever. So there was a week where Kawhi was away from the team. It was coming out of All-Star break. Mm-hmm. He was away from the Spurs, and I was up there working out. He was there. When I say this dude was so meticulous in his work trying to come back from that quad tendon, I remember, I'll never forget it. I used to walking lunges with like 50, 55-pound dumbbells in each hand. This dude is doing slow walking lunges with 90-pound dumbbells in his hands with the wrap around his quad, which limits your blood flow. This guy gets after it. I understand the frustration with the load management issue. What we're talking about here and questioning his injury, and you say, I'm not questioning his injury. You just said we saw Paul George get hurt. We didn't see Kawhi get hurt. Let's give the guy some credit. He did it in game 1. He went out there and battled game 2. Guess what? If he could play, he would play. I want to get clarification on this worst superstar. Do you not have any empathy for someone who has came back from 2 major leg injuries?
Okay. So you heard what they had to say. Now, here are my thoughts on this. As y'all know, Stephen A. Smith has had a history with Kawhi Leonard. This dates back years now. Years, especially ever since he joined the Clippers. Stephen A. Smith, for whatever reason, has kind of had it out for Kawhi. I don't know why. He still to this day maintains the position that Kawhi got lucky when he won those championships, or he won that championship. With the Toronto Raptors, right? And he's always going at him. And what's interesting is that he always takes these strong positions about a guy that never speaks, which is very interesting. Now, to get to the points he made, which were he does a terrible job marketing the brand of the Clippers. I've seen Kawhi attend many different Clipper events, including when they broke ground for their new arena. He was there with Paul George and all of these guys. I've seen him attend a range of Clipper events. All of this which is documented on their Instagram account, the Clippers Instagram account. It's all there. And to me, I believe Kawhi Leonard does exactly what every other superstar or every other star would do in the NBA. He does what the organization asks of him, and then he goes home. I don't see any other players out there going above and beyond to market their team. I don't. Even when Kobe Bryant, the late Kobe Bryant, was playing, I never saw him going above it. Yeah, he would do interviews, but it wasn't solely for the Lakers. When you go on Jimmy Kimmel, he wasn't going there to talk about the Lakers. Now, he may get asked about the Lakers, but he was marketing his own interests. In the case of Kawhi, it seems as if Stephen A. Smith has an issue with Kawhi Leonard being an introvert. And to me, that really has nothing to do with his basketball game. Because when Kawhi is healthy and he's playing, he's one of the best players in the world. So we can't really knock him for his game. We're knocking him for his lack of availability. And funny enough, just yesterday, Jay Williams of ESPN on the Max Kellerman, Jay Williams and Keyshawn show, he went at Stephen A. Smith for saying that Kawhi Leonard is the worst superstar, one of the worst superstars in sports history. And he said, Stephen, are you aware of the fact that the reason Kawhi Leonard is so quiet is because of some of the trauma that he had growing up. As y'all know, Kawhi Leonard's father was murdered at the age of 16. I just saw the video just yesterday of them talking, those short piece on Kawhi's kind of upbringing. And I believe that took place while Kawhi was in his teens. He must have been 15, 16 years old. And his father had a car wash out in Compton. And a tragic event occurred, and you saw Kawhi Leonard go out. And they said that ever since that situation occurred, he's never been the same. And I don't think that's anything unique to Kawhi. Any person that has experienced that level of trauma is going to change unless something is wrong with you. You're going to be scarred in some way. You're going to be scarred in some way. Then we just recently found out of another issue that he had with his family and one of his siblings, which I'm not going to touch on this show because that is way, way, way too personal. But I'm sure a good amount of you guys are aware of this. And that's the reason why JJ Redick was, why aren't you a little bit more sympathetic to the guy? You know what the guy goes through. And I've personally seen him put in the hard work. Now, I was listening to Raw for Sports the other day, and he brought up an interesting point that I didn't consider, which was this. He said, as y'all know, Stephen A. Smith is a very, very huge proponent of Aaron Rodgers. He thinks Aaron Rodgers is one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he's the one that coined the phrase, he's a bad man. He's the one. Stephen A. Smith is the guy that came up with that phrase. He's a bad man. He was always referring to Aaron Rodgers. Now, some of you may be aware of the fact that Aaron Rodgers just recently signed with the New York Jets. Great. And Raw was bringing up the point, which was, he was saying that Stephen A. Smith was making all of these concessions for Aaron Rodgers. Maybe, well, if so-and-so player is injured or this doesn't happen, what all of you guys must realize is that Aaron Rodgers is an already accomplished quarterback. Well, if we look at Kawhi Leonard is already a two-time champion. He's already won 2 Defensive Player of the Year. He's already made multiple All-NBA teams. He already made it on the top 75 list. So why aren't you giving Kawhi Leonard that same grace, that level of understanding? Now, I'm not trying to say that he's doing that from a race angle because I know some people will go there. However, I'm bringing up the point I'm trying to get to is, why does that double standard exist with Kawhi? Why are you so hell-bent on holding Kawhi Leonard's feet to the fire when you don't carry that same energy across all of the various sports out there? Why is it one way for this guy and a different way for the other guy? And that's the reason JJ Redick was pushing back. He's like, oh, wait a minute. And then to suggest that the guy needs to retire? He needs to retire. He's basically saying, who are you to determine such a thing? That's the point JJ Redick was making. And I think a lot of people were on the side of JJ Redick. Because I read through the comments, I saw the video. A lot of people were on the side of JJ Redick. To me, Stephen A. Smith came off as being a little bit too insensitive. As a Kawhi Leonard fan, I've been conflicted on this issue. Y'all know this. We've posted it in the channel. Should the Clippers move on? Should they trade Kawhi? Should they keep Kawhi? Should they try for another year? Should they trade Paul George and Kawhi? We've been back and forth. But nowhere in there did I say Kawhi Leonard needs to retire. It's not my business. It's not my business, and it's not my place to say that. It's not my place to say that. So I like the fact that JJ Redick brought a counterbalance to the views that were being propagated out there. He gave a different side of the argument, which I believe made it very, very good TV. So what I want to know from you guys is simply this. What are your thoughts on JJ Redick's positions? What are your thoughts on Stephen A. Smith's positions? And what are your thoughts about my analysis about the entire situation? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section, and we'll catch you guys on the next show. Peace.